Yeah. Yeah.
And welcome back to the Damn Podcast. I'm Carter Bahns here weekly with Angie Machado, publisher of BeaverBlitz.com. And Angie, we are here with a really special episode of the Damn Podcast. It's a Women's College World Series watch party. First pitch is just moments away as we record this here at 4 o'clock, Thursday, June 2nd. We're also going to preview the Corvallis Regional on the baseball side. So the Diamond Sports getting a very big emphasis on this week's show. But Angie, first of all, how are you on this sunny June afternoon in Oregon?
Yeah, it's not quite sunny here, Carter. It's a little overcast, kind of sunny, but no, all is good. How fun is it that we're actually talking about a women's softball World Series game and not just baseball this time of year?
Yeah, first time since 2006, the Oregon State softball team has advanced to the Women's College World Series. I've got it pulled up here on my phone on the side. I've got 3 screens going here. So if you're watching us live on YouTube and you see me looking around everywhere, I'm either reading the show notes or looking at Angie or watching the game. So we've got multiple things going here at the same time.
I'm kind of the same because I'm actually I'm in our family room right now. So I have the game over there. So if you see me look in that direction, I'm looking at the game, and then you kind of see the stairs behind me. So hopefully you might get a cameo. Jack or Luke might make a cameo. So
hey, that's how we roll on the Damn Podcast. We're going to keep it casual as always. We'll provide some updates on the softball game as we go throughout here. If you're watching us live on YouTube, feel free to post some comments in the chat. We'll throw them up on the screen. If you have any questions for us, we'll try to answer them throughout the show. We do have a pretty full show this week with these 2 sports going on at the same time. So hopefully we have some time for some Q&A at the end. We'll try to throw some questions in as we go. But Angie, I just got back from Arizona a couple of days ago, took a day off to recharge after a long week of baseball. But I'm ready to get back at it. So why don't we start with softball here, since that's what's going on at the moment.
Yeah.
Baseball gets underway tomorrow in the Corvallis Regional. But Angie, I was when I was down in Arizona covering the Pac-12 Baseball Tournament, I didn't get a chance to watch too much softball, but Oregon State was down in Palo Alto in the Stanford Super Regional, which they swept 2-0. Did you catch either of those 2 games?
I caught just the very end of that second game that sent them to the World Series. It was, I think, a 2-0 win. Softball's a little quicker game. I think that was the same day that Oregon State had its meltdown. It's kind of a strange day that day, but saw a little bit of it. And, I don't know a ton about women's softball, just of the Oregon State team, just that I've heard so many great things about the head coach, Laura Berg.
Yeah, she's, an eventual Hall of Famer. If she's not there already, I can't remember, but, Team USA coach, and, she's had a lot of success at a lot of levels. Throw up this comment: "It's too bad Carter can't be at 2 places at once," says Dame's Milkman. Yeah, Oklahoma City is not necessarily a destination, but considering the gravity of what's going on down there, it does kind of stink to miss it. But
okay, Carter, but
I've only covered like 2 minutes worth of softball since I started writing for BeaverBlitz, so I don't think I'd be of much value down there.
But keep the comments coming.
Yeah, keep them rolling. First pitch between Oregon State and number 14 seed Florida is set for any minute now. They're in commercial break. The news of the day, Angie: Mariah Mazzone, Oregon State's 2-way player, All-American, like the lone 5-year senior on this squad, inexplicably, before the game, it was announced that she is unavailable today. She will not play against Florida. The team hopes to have her back sometime in the near future, they said, but no details on Mazzone's absence. How big of a loss is that for this Oregon State softball team?
It's huge because not only was she an amazing pitcher for the Beavs, she was also one of their best bats. So that's a huge loss. I mean, if I was to tell you that the Beavs were going to lose Cooper Jerpy and Jacob Melton, what would I think that's kind of the magnitude that we're talking.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's, she's the leader of this squad. Like I said, a fifth-year senior who has been at the forefront of Oregon State's success this year. Throwing no hitters and hitting grand slams. That's what Mariah Mazzone brings to the table. And unfortunately, she's not available for the Beavers as we get underway here in Oklahoma City. First pitch at 4:07 p.m.
They just started.
Will bat first with Florida in the circle there in the top of the first inning. As we said, we'll provide updates if you've got us pulled up like we do with multiple screens going. You're watching the damn podcast on one of them, or if you're listening after the fact, you'll hear some updates throughout the game as that progresses over the next hour or so as we record this. But Angie, yesterday, the team arrived in Oklahoma City. Some media arrived down there as well. We know a handful of people who were down there covering the squad. Did you get a chance to catch that about 11-minute press conference by chance yesterday?
Just a little piece of it.
Okay. I'm curious what your takeaways are, because I've got two big takeaways that I put in the show notes here. But from what you saw, just the quick tidbit, did you get the same sense that I did, that this team is just having so much fun during this ride?
100%. I mean, this is, yes, it looks like a team that's playing together, and they seem to really like each other and care about each other. But then just to see the fun and the smiles, and then to hear Laura Berg talk about this being ranking up there with one of the top moments of her career, that's huge. I mean, this is someone who's coached Olympics and done some pretty big things in her career.
Yeah, my big takeaway was, Laura Berg saying that this ranks right there at the top of her experiences as a player and a coach. And I mean, this is somebody who's coached and played at the highest level in this sport. And she says this year, leading a group of freshmen to the Women's College World Series takes the cake. That is the ultimate accomplishment in her book, which is, it's pretty cool. You're witnessing one of the best to ever do it, do something that she says is the best thing she's ever done. So I think it's impressive what she's been able to do to bring this group of really young student athletes together, and lead them to heights that the program really hasn't ever seen before. My other takeaway, go for it.
No, it reminds me a little bit of Oregon State's first year in the College World Series. What was that, like 2005?
2005, yeah.
So I think that was a 2 and a barbecue for them, but it really kind of set the table for what, kind of gave them a sense of what it was all about, and then helped them come back the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's a program builder for sure. And one of those players who will be back next year is Frankie Amudi, who said during the press conference at Media Day that, nobody expected Oregon State to be here. Nobody expected us to be in this seat here in the Women's College World Series. So why not just have fun? They're playing with house money at this point. They're playing loose. You see it when you watch a game. Oregon State is known for dancing in the dugout, for video bombing Laura Berg during interviews. You're ahead of me on the stream. I'm streaming. You're watching broadcast. Okay.
Yeah, I'm watching the broadcast. Got a double.
Oregon State hits a double in the top of the first with 1 out for the game's first base runner. But yeah, Frankie Humudi yesterday saying, we're just having fun out here. Nobody expected us to be here, so why don't we just go out there and kind of do our thing? And I think that's very evident when you watch an Oregon State softball game.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're, like you said, the dancing in the dugout has become viral, I think. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah. I spoke with Oregon State head coach Mitch Canham on the baseball side yesterday. He was asked, is the baseball team kind of keyed into what softball's doing? Are you guys, how closely are you watching? He said actually a lot of the players on both teams know each other. So, the baseball players will say, oh, like they know softball players' tendencies. They know who's good at what and whatnot. So they're very much experts on this team. I think, a lot of them are friends and, know each other very well. So they are, trust me, they're very locked in, according to what Mitch Canham said. He
Well,
also
I think
said
that would be the same though across the board with all the student athletes at Oregon State. There's 500 or so student athletes.
yeah.
I would say they're all, the softball team practices in the Truex indoor. They all use the same weight room. There's different, they're at training tables together. So it's not like these guys live in complete little bubbles. So I would say the entire athletic department is following along pretty close.
Yeah, it's an athletic department that I think very much supports the success of other teams. You saw it too when the Oregon State men's basketball team made their run through the Pac-12 tournament and into the Elite Eight of the Big Dance just, one short year ago. Athletic department support across the board for that team as well. Mitch Canham also said he fully expects, and his team fully expects, the Oregon State softball team to come home with the trophy. He says this team is, they're not there just to go out, have fun and dance in the dugout. They're there to win the whole thing. And I think how cool would that be for Oregon State to run the table and bring home a trophy?
Okay, I think we just got to run in 1-0 and a single hit. I'm sorry, I'm kind of like watching two things here. So Oregon State scored 1 run. There's a runner at first, and there's 2 outs. Top of 1.
There you go. Oregon State on the board first in its opener at the College World Series. We will continue to have live updates throughout the game, but we want to move to the baseball side.
Yes, I can't wait to hear about your trip, Carter. I mean, I've heard parts,
so I kind of want to start with that. I was in Scottsdale for 6 days, 5 days, 6 nights, something like that. Obviously, the main takeaway from Scottsdale is that it's very hot and it's very dry, very much unlike Oregon. So I get there and it's 105 degrees the first day I'm there. Not used to that. But I just kept thinking, I'm curious and quite frankly concerned about how the players of all 8 teams are going to be able to handle those conditions. And sure enough, we saw that with Oregon State in particular kind of rear its head with about 5 different guys getting hurt during the longest day of baseball that I had ever seen. So that's, kind of the bird's eye view of the conditions there. But Oregon State loses to Stanford 9-5 in the inaugural Pac-12 tournament championship game, ending a 3-2 week down in Scottsdale. So, I mean, all in all, technically not a bad week for Oregon State, but 3-2. I don't know, Angie. Did you want to see more success from them, or is making the championship game and giving Stanford a run for its money, considering all of the circumstances that Oregon State was facing, is that successful in your book?
Yeah, to be honest, I was never a big fan of this whole Pac-12 tournament to be from the start. I mean, I see where it can help a team that maybe the 7-8 seed potentially get in, but it really there's nothing to gain for a Stanford, Oregon State, even UCLA, but especially Oregon State and Stanford, who it was pretty much a given that they were going to be a top seed for the tournament. Really, the only thing that could happen was somebody would get hurt or they would lower their seating a little bit. I guess it was interesting because, like you said, I have never seen anything like that back-to-back those UCLA games. Both of them were a little wild, but that first one, what was it, 21-12 at one point?
Yes. Yeah, 21-12 going into the bottom of the 9th. Quick update from Oklahoma City. Through the first half inning, Oregon State leads 1-0. The Beavers leave 2 runners aboard. They get 2 hits and score the game's first run. But yes, down in Scottsdale, that first game in that long day, that long semifinal day against UCLA, 25-22 in 10 innings across 5 hours and 44 minutes of baseball. A total of 53 hits, 5 errors between the 2 teams, I believe. Yeah, unlike anything that I had ever seen, and honestly, not even remotely what I was expecting when I left my Airbnb that morning. I figured,
Yeah.
all right, semifinal game, UCLA's running on fumes, not much left in the tank. Oregon State's got its starting pitchers ready to go. Maybe we see Oregon State win this thing, like 5-2, 5-3, something like that. Get out of there, go get dinner, and have a relaxing night. Instead, I got to the park, somewhere around 11:30 or noon, and left about midnight. So it was a longer day than I had anticipated. I think a longer day than anybody else anticipated. But in the end, Oregon State does bounce back and win the second game on a Jacob Melton walk-off, taking that one 8-7 to advance to the championship. But Angie, so be honest with me here. Did you watch all,
right now.
9-10 hours of baseball?
We did. That was
and how did you feel afterwards? Because I was about as drained as I have ever been.
Drained, exhausted, and honestly, I think I looked at Eric and said, that's like 10 hours that I'm never going to get back.
Yeah. I mean, hey, the one thing that those games had going for them were that they were incredibly entertaining. No shortage of offense, a lot of lead changes. You even had some extra innings drama in the first one, a 9-run bottom of the ninth to send it to extras. It's everything that you could ever ask for from a baseball game. And yet I sit there after the game thinking, wow, this is why baseball is a quote unquote dying sport. This is why people don't like watching it, because it takes forever. You never. It was catastrophic, I think, for both teams.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I thought the whole Pac-12 tournament was long. I mean, I think the games were just so long and drawn out. And like you said, that's why people aren't watching baseball, because it's typically lower scoring and it takes forever. It's a pretty big commitment. And if you're a Beaver fan, that first game was completely just like a gut punch.
Yeah. Down in Oklahoma City, Oregon State turns to Sarah Hendiges on the or in the circle to pitch with Mariah Mazzone out again today. It's an undisclosed absence for Mazzone, but Sarah Hendiges, the freshman, gets the ball for Oregon State, up 1-0 against Florida. So yeah, Angie, Oregon State obviously has that long day against UCLA. Before that, they went 2-0, got a day off on Friday, which I think in hindsight was absolutely huge to have that one day to rest the bullpen arms, going into a very long day Saturday, and then the championship on Sunday. But those first two wins, beating Lindsey Meggs in Washington, always feels good for Oregon State fans. And I'm sure even those within the program, they probably will never admit it, but I think that is a big rivalry, for everyone affiliated with Oregon State. So to get that win in the opener was big. To beat California in the second round, also big, because then you get the day off. And then they go and win 1 out of 2 against UCLA and drop the championship to Stanford to go 3-2. So that's the tournament as a whole for Oregon State. But Angie, I want to talk about just kind of this whole field, this whole 8-team field. Getting back to your point about the Pac-12 tournament essentially just kind of being pointless. Nobody really helped themselves. The teams that already knew that they were going to be in the field, pretty much, nobody lost their place. Nobody stole a bid. You didn't see Washington make a deep run. You didn't see Arizona State make too deep of a run. But I think the one thing that did change after all of that was Oregon went into the tournament expected to host a regional per D1 Baseball and Baseball America, and they leave, they're the first team eliminated, and now they're heading to Louisville. So I think, the tournament kind of backfired in that way.
Yeah. I mean, that's just it. I mean, nothing really good came from it, as and you can argue, if you're a Beaver fan, that was kind of poetic justice for the Ducks to get shipped to Louisville after potentially looking like they were going to host, but it's still not good for the Pac-12 as a whole. And then it wasn't even like Pac-12. I mean, the games were all on the Pac-12 net albeit for
Right.
the last one. So it wasn't like you got huge exposure either. I just don't see a lot of upside. And then, like I said, you had guys playing. I don't know really why they pick Scottsdale, except for the fact that it probably has the best weather, although it's hot the end of May. So I would have liked to see him San Diego or LA or an area that maybe was a little less hot.
Yeah, venue availability, I think, is the big thing down in Arizona. You have all of these municipal ballparks that sit empty for 11, 10, 11 months out of the year when spring training's wrapped up. So I think, the availability not having to compete for field space was a big draw. Obviously, the weather, the attractions that come with Scottsdale. I think it's good for fans if they find a way to stay cool. I was very lucky to have a pool at my Airbnb. There are a lot of reasons why I say, okay, Scottsdale seems like a great place to play this tournament. But I think if you can overcome the venue availability aspect that might come with playing in Reno or in the Bay Area or in Los Angeles, those places just seem a lot more conducive to, a more well-run tournament where you're not seeing teams playing for 6 hours in the Sonoran desert heat under the beating sun and getting injured every half inning.
Yeah, I mean, just
the
dehydration, everything. I mean, it's such a taxation on those kids' bodies.
Yeah, and for nothing really good to come out of it for any team that needed it. And then like you said with the conference, the big draw for the conference outside of potentially stinking another team into the NCAA tournament is the money that comes from your TV deal, your commercial space, all of that. But these games, like you said, were on the Pac-12 network. It's not like this is the SEC where they can put all these on the SEC network, which is owned by ESPN or ESPN Plus. It's on a network that, quite frankly, nobody really has. So I don't think the Pac-12 probably gained as much from that as it could have if it had the resources that another conference did. I mean, how many times did you see the same 3 commercials on repeat?
Yeah.
The Pac-12, promoting itself,
Yes.
essentially. It's not like it's selling a bunch of ad space either. So I don't know. Just about everything in this conference, I felt like it was just kind of poorly conceived. I do think it's a necessity just because, that's every other conference in the country does this, but I don't know if it's a matter of this just being the inaugural event and they have to work out some, they have to make some tweaks and whatnot. But I was a little disappointed with I think the way it was operated. I will say the games themselves were a ton of fun.
And I want to give a shout out because watching those games, I watched other teams too, and Oregon State fans showed up probably better than any other fan base. Arizona looked like they had quite a few fans, but Oregon State fans traveled very well.
And they always do. Oregon State baseball fans are right there with the best of them as far as traveling. And to Arizona in particular, we see it every February with thousands of fans going down to Surprise for those first 2 weekends. And a lot of that same contingent showed up at Scottsdale Stadium. I think there were at least 1,000 Oregon State fans there on any given day. The attendance announced for the championship game was just over 4,000, and I would say close to half of that was wearing orange. So really cool to see Oregon State fans turn out like they did. Angie, was there anything that you? I mean, we've been so negative about this thing, but was there anything that you actually liked about the tournament? Because, like I said, the games themselves were a ton of fun.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think they can improve on some things, but I loved how many Beavers fans showed up. I thought that was awesome to see, and it is the concept is there. It's just thinking from a player perspective. If I was Mitch Canham, I mean, not that I would have done this, but after that 10-hour or the 10-inning game against UCLA in the heat, and then having to turn around and play again, I think I would have just packed up my team and said, "We're going home. Nothing good's coming this. You lose your catcher. The guys are cramping up. They're dehydrated. I'm sure there were some IVs flowing in between games. And I mean, as far as trying to keep your bodies healthy for the next step, but no, the games were fun. They, that's the one thing you can say about a hitter's park, is that it made entertaining offensive battles. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it's necessary. All the other conferences do it, but there were some downsides, I think, especially if you're one of the top two teams, Stanford, Oregon State, in the mix.
Yeah, let's talk about the ballpark too. Now that you mentioned it being a hitter's park, that's the reason these games were going so long, and that's the reason that you were seeing Oregon State and UCLA combine for nearly 50 runs in one game. The dimensions of that place: 360 down the left field line, 430 to straightaway center, 35 or something down the right field line, super deep power alleys. It's an outfield that plays so big that if you put something in the air, chances are it's going to drop. And so the only way to counter that as a defense is to try to induce more ground balls and keep the ball in the infield. But then, when the field is being, stepped on by 8 teams a day and, sitting there in 100-degree heat under the sunlight, the infield gets really hard and the ball starts moving a lot quicker. And that's, I think, why you saw Oregon State commit so many errors that week. Just, an infield that was playing like cement, and an outfield that if anything's hit to it, it's going to drop for a base hit. So that's part of the problem too with playing in Arizona, is a lot of those ballparks are constructed in that way. So I don't know, maybe in the future they'll move away from it, but they do have a 3-year contract. As Oregon State gets out of the bottom of the first inning in Oklahoma City scoreless, the Beavers lead 1-0 over Florida in the Women's College World Series as we head to the second inning. Angie, anything else you want to add about the Pac-12 Baseball Tournament? We're going to talk injuries here in just a minute as we preview the Corvallis Regional. But
no, I think
anything else you want to add?
No, let's move into something positive now. And so Florida did get 2 hits. So Oregon State had 2 hits and Florida had 2 hits, but 1-0, like you said, on the softball side.
We are going to hit a quick break. If I can pull up my ad read here. Angie, while I'm pulling this up, we're going to promote BeaverBlitz here in just a second. I want to touch on one football topic before we get to baseball, because this is a huge weekend, not only for the baseball team, but for the football program as well, who's hosting a huge recruiting weekend.
Yeah, it's a big weekend. June is always a big official visit weekend. They'll have 8. Right now we have 8, possibly 9. I'm working to confirm that 9th visitor this weekend. Next weekend is a smaller visit weekend with graduation. So they kind of keep that under, kind of as a non-big weekend. And then they have another couple weekends with official visitors at the end of the month before they kind of take their July. Coaches can get their downtime to plan fall camp. So yes, stick to BeaverBlitz, head in the lodge. We have the whole list in the lodge of visitors. The one I'm really watching, there are a couple big time O-linemen. The one I'm watching, though, is Adrian Childs, the quarterback from Southern California. I would have put Oregon State in the driver's seat probably 2 months ago, but now he's got a couple other big offers, including Washington, and Oregon State has a battle on their hands. But I think they really need to tie up a quarterback in this class, and that helps them recruit the rest of the offensive class.
Well, there you have it. A big recruiting weekend for Oregon State football, as we're kind of in this this dead period as far as content goes. We haven't covered football too much in the last couple of weeks since spring camp ended, but trust me, we're going to be ramping back up as soon as baseball is over, especially with fall camp, 2 months away. Angie,
Seriously.
This thing's creeping up.
It is.
But all the more reason to head to BeaverBlitz.com, which is proud to be the leader in Oregon State football and men's basketball recruiting coverage. With access to the most talented and well-connected recruiting analysts in the nation, we're your source for all the latest scholarship offer, official visit, and transfer portal news. Year-round coverage of Oregon State football, men's basketball, baseball, and everything else within the athletic department makes BeaverBlitz.com the all-inclusive destination for in-depth analysis of all things Beaver sports. Join us today with a monthly or annual subscription to gain full access to our VIP articles, team of experts, and message board. Membership also grants the ability to chat with fellow Beaver fans and gain behind-the-scenes intel in the lodge. You'll get all this and more, including access to all of the team sites across the 24/7 Sports Network with your subscription. So join today to keep up on your favorite teams and your rivals too. All right, Angie, we're back to action in the Women's College World Series. Oregon State up to bat here in the top of the second, up 1-0. But let's talk Corvallis Regional on the baseball side. Obviously, Oregon State had to go through the regional and super regional round to get to where it's at now on the softball side. But Mitch Canham's Beavers are staying home this year. You know, they went down to Fort Worth last year for that regional hosted by TCU. But the Beavers this year are hosting Vanderbilt, San Diego, and New Mexico State in the 2022 Corvallis Regional. Angie, when you look at that field, anything stand out to you?
Well, I'm glad we're not seeing Gonzaga, because that was, rumored to be one of the teams, or UC Santa Barbara were two of the teams that had kind of been rumored before the announcement. So, we're getting a visitor, Duke, saying hi. There's the puppy. He's giving kisses. So I'm glad we don't see that. I mean, we've already seen Gonzaga a couple times this season. So Vanderbilt, that's just kind of one of those heavy hitter names. So of course that one kind of jumps out at you to see Vandy in the mix. I know they're not the Vandy maybe that we've seen the past couple years, but they typically play tough and they're a well-coached and stacked team. San Diego, New Mexico State, don't know a ton about them. So I know we'll have JP's weekly walk-off and then your in-depth analysis tomorrow before the actual game. But those two, are always excited, fun to watch just because you never know what those mid-majors are going to do, but they can compete.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick rundown of all of these teams here in just a minute, too. I did a little bit of scouting, but I actually just got back from Goss Stadium about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago to go pick up my credential for the weekend. And all four teams were practicing at Goss today. So I got to tell you, Goss was hopping today. So you've got ESPN trucks out in the parking lot, getting all ready to provide the TV coverage. All of these games will be on the ESPN family of networks. We've got NCAA officials there kind of setting up, putting their branding everywhere. They've got this really cool thing going on kind of on the facade of Goss Stadium out on the third baseline that I wanted to snap a picture of, but they weren't quite done with it.
Okay.
So I was trying to figure out what they were doing as I was walking into the stadium, but by the time I had left, it was starting to come together. So they've got, like those giant wall stickers.
Yes. Yes.
So they've got a big sticker for each of the four teams.
Okay.
And then underneath that, in big bold lettering, it says Corvallis Regional. And then they're putting up another sticker as I left. So I don't know what that one was, but it's a big thing up on the side of the building. They haven't done that before, so I thought it was kind of cool. Just throw that out on the side of the building. Obviously, there will be all sorts of NCAA branding and whatnot inside.
I wonder if it was a bracket. Could it be a bracket?
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. But yeah, all four teams practicing there. I saw a little bit of Vanderbilt's BP. Tim Corbin, longtime head coach there, one of the best coaches in college baseball, was throwing BP. Cool to see him kind of, tossing some softballs to his guys. And they were crushing it. They looked like a really physical team, but I think despite their record, they could cause some problems as the 2 seed in this regional. San Diego comes in after beating Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference Championship, and then New Mexico State also won their conference tournament as well.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt with a quick softball update. Oregon State has bases loaded, no outs right now after a bunt. I'm just watching it right now. She bunts it, and it went right past the third baseman and the shortstop.
That's a rally.
A bases
loaded rally with no outs.
Yes.
This is a situation where Oregon State needs to, when you're playing a team of Florida's caliber, a national seed in a spot like this, getting ahead big is obviously huge. So we'll see if they can, score a couple of runs here.
They're changing pitchers already. Florida.
That's a good sign. Getting into the bullpen already is the Oregon State softball team. So Oregon State baseball tomorrow being Friday, opens Corvallis Regional play with a 7 p.m. first pitch against New Mexico State, the 4 seed in the Corvallis Regional. Angie, that game will be on ESPNU. I imagine you're going to be watching from Sherwood.
We'll be watching.
What are you hoping to see in this opener, knowing that, and I'll drop a couple nuggets here that the listeners might have already read if they're following along with Beaver Blitz. Oregon State's going to throw Cooper Jerpy as their starting pitcher tomorrow. I think that was met with a lot of question marks from Oregon State fans that I personally didn't expect. I know my Twitter mentions absolutely blew up when I tweeted that. People saying, what are we doing starting Jerpy against a team like New Mexico State? You have to save your ace for Saturday.
You got to get to Saturday,
I'm
hopefully
curious.
not.
I'm curious what your thoughts are on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but you can't. It's baseball. It's baseball, and really, so much of it can just come down to opportune hits or hits falling in the right spot. You can't take New Mexico State lightly. I mean, everybody's going to be gunning for Oregon State. They've been like the number 2 team all season long. They're going to pitch their ace, and you don't want to go to the losers bracket. It's just go with it. And what I want to see from Oregon State is I want to see them dominate in all aspects, all phases. I think we saw. I mean, here's Oregon State this year has been one of the best defensive teams we've seen in the country. And I think they stumbled a little bit, and I'm going to chalk that up to some heat potentially and that fast infield. But I want to see solid baseball. I want to see good hitting. I want to see, solid pitching and then back to that near 100% fielding.
Yeah. I mean, I understand some of the hand wringing that Oregon State fans are doing right now. I do think, it does make sense to save your ace for a better opponent. Sure. But like you said, you have to get to Saturday first. And I don't care how bad a team might be in this first round of, the NCAA tournament. None of these games are gimmies. We've seen Oregon State fall in the past. I mean, it happened 3 short years ago in the 2019 Corvallis Regional. Oregon State lost to a 4 seed. I just think, you set up your pitching, you get guys ready for the next round. If you're there, you prepare your Friday, Saturday, Sunday as you normally would. And I don't know. I just think you have to trust your guys at some point. And I think that's what Mitch Canham's doing in this case. Another point that I wanted to get to here that, I posted this at Oregon or at BeaverBlitz the other day. Oregon State's fully healthy going into this thing, which I think you and I both, we talked the other day after I, heard this news from Mitch Canham, and we were both a little surprised considering, just how banged up they were after the Pac-12 tournament. But Gavin Logan coming back from an injury, Jacob Melton obviously sat out briefly in the Pac-12 tournament. He's back and good to go. Wade Meckler, Justin Boyd, Travis Bazana, everybody that missed time at some point down in Scottsdale is good to go this week, which I think obviously is pretty massive considering some of the names that I just listed there.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, those are your top guys, and especially Logan. You and I talked about this earlier in the week. That surprised me because that looked like a groin pull, and I thought he might be out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it looked serious, and he was being helped off the field down there. We didn't see him the rest of the way in Scottsdale, and I think I'm right there with you. I figured if that's a pulled groin, he's done for the year as a catcher. That is an injury that you're not coming back from in the span of 3 weeks. So when it turned out to just be cramps and maybe a mild pull of some sort, I think that was probably a relief for everybody involved. I didn't really believe Mitch Canham that night when he said, "Oh, we'll see how it feels in the morning." I've had the same thing happen to me. But yeah, I mean, he came back a couple of days later and said, "No, I'm good to go. Let's catch some bullpens as soon as we get back to Corvallis." And that's exactly what he did. So getting a catcher back who led the Pac-12 tournament in batting average at about 712, I believe, maybe 714. Either way, I mean, that's an absurd number. So, his bat is hot. He's a great defensive catcher, and getting him back along with, all of those names at or near 100% is absolutely massive.
Well, yeah, so, Melton and Meckler to get those guys back with their bats, 100%. Bazana. The one, too, I just want to give a quick hat tip to Forrester because he had himself a tournament. huge production out of him this past weekend.
Yeah, he was my vote for tournament MVP. He did end up winning that, and I think he was a lock, considering he led the field in RBI. I want to say off the top of my head, he had something like 16 across 5 games, which is just
because
unreal.
he had like 5 or 6 just in that.
Yeah,
UCLA
he hit
game.
3 home runs in the tournament. He had a couple of multi-hit games against UCLA, and he kind of lit them up at the end of the regular season as well. So that's a guy who has absolutely torched UCLA pitching. I'm sure he's probably upset UCLA is not in the Corvallis Regional the way he played, but
Okay.
Oregon State does match up to potentially play UCLA in the Supers should Oregon State advance out of the Corvallis Regional. UCLA advance out of the Auburn Regional, they would face in a 3-game series, which I think is really intriguing considering, Oregon State's struggles against UCLA, and obviously considering what happened between those 2 teams down in Scottsdale. Angie, quick.
I was going to ask you that. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I wasn't watching. No, I was.
All right. I'll do it. Oregon State
Okay.
leaves the bases loaded in top of the second after loading them with nobody out.
Hate leaving guys on base. No, I was going to ask you, what did you think of the pairings for the brackets? It just seems like a lot of the Pac-12s on one side of the bracket.
Yeah, I mean, nothing surprising. People complain about the committee stacking the thing so that the SEC gets as many teams as possible into the College World Series. I do agree to an extent, but I think there's only so much the committee can do. I mean, let's think about the way this tournament is constructed. They're called regionals for a reason. They try to keep things as regionally constructed as possible. And when the distribution of teams in the NCAA tournament is so heavily, it's East Coast heavy, it's very difficult to spread out your West Coast teams like that. Because, in regional play, you want to keep geography in mind. So they try to keep West Coast teams, in the same regionals. They try to keep East Coast teams in the same regionals. Texas and Louisiana teams, often play each other. So just by nature of that, there are only so many teams to go around. So that's why you see Oregon State play the same teams year after year in the first round. And that's why you see a lot of Pac-12 teams match up against each other. As frustrating as it may be, I don't really think there's a way to counteract this unless you get rid of the regional format altogether, rank everybody 1 through 64 and just say, all right, this is just the first round. It's not a regional,
Yeah.
But that's, I don't know. I assume you have a bone to pick with the Pac-12 having to play each other to get to the College World Series.
I know that's the reasoning behind it is the regionals. And when you have, 3/4 of the teams or even more on the other side of the Rockies, it makes sense. But it's just kind of, especially just how strong the Pac-12 is. It's sometimes unfortunate that they tend to do that.
Yeah, it is kind of a bummer. And I think if I remember correctly, the Pac-12 has 5 teams represented, and the top 3 are all on the same side. So that is the one part where I say, okay, yeah, you should probably distribute the top teams a little better than that instead of, making them all play each other to get to the national championship. But I don't know. We're not in the room that decides how these things are drawn up. Getting back to the Corvallis Regional, so we touched briefly on Oregon State versus New Mexico State. I want to give a little background on all of these teams. So New Mexico State, as I said, won the WAC tournament. That's the Western Athletic Conference, includes the likes of Grand Canyon, Abilene Christian. But winning that tournament was, I don't think, anything anybody really saw coming from New Mexico State, who was the last team in that conference tournament. And by nature of that was, I believe, the worst team in the NCAA tournament this year. So Oregon State kind of gets a cupcake first game. I'm not going to lie. This is a 24-32 Aggies squad coming to Corvallis, who, by any measure really has no business being in this field,
Yeah.
but obviously it has to be because it's an automatic qualifier. So it's about as easy in quotes
Yeah.
as a first round game as you can possibly get. But I don't know. That's where a lot of the hand wringing is coming from. Oregon State fans, Oregon State throwing its ace against that squad. But the other first
who would
round
you
game,
pitch? Who would you pitch, Carter? Would you go with Phoenix?
Probably Kamatz, Jacob
Okay.
Kamatz. Yeah, I don't know. I'd throw Jerby. I just think that's what you do in the postseason is, you ride with your ace on Friday and you go from there.
Yeah.
Regardless of who you play. It's just too important to win. You don't take any chances trying to get too cute in the postseason if I'm a head coach, at least.
Yeah.
But in the other first round matchup in the Corvallis Regional, it's San Diego versus Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt gets the 2 seed in the Corvallis Regional, San Diego the 3. To get here, San Diego beat Gonzaga twice in the West Coast Conference Tournament. And they actually closed their regular season against the Zags. So the Toreros went 3-2 on the season against Gonzaga. Obviously, that's you have to be a pretty good team to do that. Oregon State fans didn't want Gonzaga in this regional. Instead, it gets a team that beat it 3 out of 5 times. So did Oregon State fans really get what they wanted there? I don't know. I went and looked at the San Diego schedule just to see some of the common opponents, that Oregon State and San Diego had in common, because they're 2 West Coast teams and play a lot of the same squads. So these are San Diego's records against teams that Oregon State also played. San Diego, as I said, went 3-2 against Gonzaga. It went 3-1 in a season opening series against Oregon. Then it won 2 out of 3 against Grand Canyon, who Oregon State split a midseason series against. 1-1 against Irvine, who Oregon State also played. 2-2 against Portland. And as I said, that 3-2 mark against Gonzaga. So, all in all, San Diego was winning series or splitting series against all the teams that Oregon State played. So,
yeah,
I don't know. It seems like a tough matchup for the Beavers.
Yeah, and how about Vandy?
So Vanderbilt goes 1-2 in the SEC tournament last weekend. It actually dropped its last 2 games by a combined score of 20-3. So the momentum is not necessarily on Vanderbilt's side. It's also it's lost 5 of its last 6. It was swept by LSU in the regular season finale. So, we talk about momentum. Obviously, Vanderbilt comes in with a lot of losses on its schedule. Oregon State, is kind of in the same boat. Lost 2 out of 3 to UCLA in the regular season finale. Went 3-2 in the Pac-12 tournament, dropping a couple of games. So it's not like Oregon State's riding too high either. But I think Vanderbilt firmly is the coldest team in this regional. That being said, the Commodores are still the number 7 team in the country, according to RPI. They stand at 36-21 overall and 14-16 in conference play. So, sub 500 in the SEC, but that number 7 RPI means they're doing something right and they're playing tough teams. So it's a battle tested squad who has still won quite a few games against really good opponents.
Has to fly all the way out to Corvallis though. So, that's, and weather could be an issue. I know it's been nice the past couple of days, but I'm anxious to see what maybe weather does for this weekend and playing in the rain potentially for these schools.
Yeah. Speaking of traveling out to Corvallis, Angie, are you familiar with the Vanderbilt Whistler?
Briefly, vaguely.
Okay. So the Vandy Whistler, I'm sure a lot of our listeners have kind of a bone to pick with this individual. Just a guy with an incredible ability to whistle louder than anyone I have ever heard. And he dominates the games, really. That's, you turn on a Vanderbilt baseball game, all you hear is just this repetitive whistling. In my opinion, it makes the games borderline unwatchable, to the point where when Vanderbilt was playing in the College World Series last year and I was watching those games, I would turn it on. I would mute the game because I didn't want to listen to it. And then I actively rooted for Mississippi State in the championship series just because I was annoyed by the guy. So
it's just a fan?
Yeah, it's just a fan, a diehard fan. There's all sorts of, he's gotten all sorts of media coverage over the years. Um, I have not heard whether or not he's going to be in Corvallis, but I have to imagine that he will probably make the trip. And if so, Beaver fans, stay civil. He's going to be annoying, but just stay civil. That's all I can say.
Or just drown him out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious to see how it plays out. Oregon State fans always get super loud during the regionals anyways. So I imagine his presence would only encourage more of that, let's say. But yeah.
Hey, quick update. Florida just scored 2. So it's 2-1.
It looks like on an error potentially.
Yes.
Looked
like an error. Yeah, it looked like an error in first base.
Okay. So Florida takes the lead in the Women's College World Series against Oregon State in the bottom of the second inning. It is ruled an E3.
Yeah, they did rule it an error.
Fielding error brings 2 runs in. So Oregon State, the ball right off the glove. Oregon State leaves the bases loaded in the top of the inning, then gives up a pair of runs on an error in the bottom half. That's not a recipe for success right there. But Angie, I think that pretty much covers everything Corvallis Regional related. Content wise at BeaverBlitz, you want to preview that, because Friday is going to be a big day for us.
Yeah, tomorrow we'll be busy. I know Carter's been busy putting together content. We'll have game headquarters, game thread during the game, previews. JP's weekly walk-off is a huge one leading up to Corvallis Regional. He'll have rundowns on all 4 teams, brackets, everything you'll need to know. So make sure to be checking out BeaverBlitz. And like I said, you'll want to be in the lodge. If you're not in Corvallis, you'll want to be watching it in the lodge with us, because it's always fun to talk back and forth. I think some of those threads from the Pac-12 tournament had 4,000 or 5,000 views just because people were in them and active during those game threads.
Yeah, I mean, some of the baseball threads that we had running in the lodge during the Pac-12 tournament were about as popular as some of the football games, actually. Yeah. Home football games and road baseball games sometimes, in terms of how many fans are, in seats versus on websites, following along, pretty comparable there, which is impressive. I think Oregon State fans have really showed out this year at BeaverBlitz. I've noticed a lot of engagement, and I think Oregon State fans are really fired up, and they get rewarded with a regional, and if Oregon State comes out of this 4-team field with super regional. So Angie, I don't think you're coming down for any of these games, but
no.
I
will be watching. Like I said, I will be having friends over tomorrow to watch with us. And yeah, it'll be a fun weekend of watching baseball. Jack, my youngest, does not have any tournaments this weekend, so the whole family, the Machado family, will be watching.
You'll all be dialed in. Yeah, as somebody who's watched a lot of postseason baseball at Goss, I can say that atmosphere during the regular season, it's already one of the best in college baseball, but during the postseason, it's just taken to a whole nother level. So they're leaving the 238, I want to say, additional seats out in left field up. I expect record crowds this weekend. You'll probably see somewhere in the realm of 4,300 people at these games, which I think the Goss official capacity is listed at like 3,500 or something like that. So to see that many people there is pretty cool. They'll all be super rowdy. Single game tickets go on sale day of at 9 a.m. So be sure to head to beavertickets.com, I think is the website.
How will the student turnout be? Because we're still finals next week?
Finals are next week. So, theoretically, at least, students will be studying for finals this weekend. But the student turnout this year has been great during the regular season, and I know that they are actually reserving some outfield general admission seats for students. So good. Students will be able to purchase those. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun, and hopefully we get to do it again next weekend with the super regional. Because Angie, I mean, we're reaching the end of the show here, and I'm like, wow, is this the last time we're going to preview baseball this year?
I hope not, but
it's possible. Yeah. But I'm hoping that we're back next week, next Wednesday or Thursday, to talk some super regional.
Yes, the fingers are crossed. Because I'm not quite ready to switch out of baseball mode and go straight to football.
Yeah, you and I both need the as much non-football time as much non-football time as we can get, because the months of April through December, you know how busy those are. So I'll take all of the baseball time I can get right now before I have to start jumping back into
Transition
football mode.
back to football. But I'll tell you what, there's nothing better than that first day of fall camp.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That'll come soon enough, though.
Which, again, like I said earlier,
June 2nd,
believe it or not, I mean, we're sitting
like
here on
2
June
months away.
2nd. We're like exactly 2 months away from fall
away.
camp, which is pretty unreal.
It's wild.
Yeah. Oregon State gets out of it, by the way.
Yeah, so
down
they're
in
top of
Oklahoma
3.
City. We're up in the top of the 3rd now. Oregon State is batting down 2-1. So we're gonna have to leave it there. If you're watching us live, you can take us off now. Get your screen back. Watch some softball. We'll be back next week to recap the game. Hopefully, man, I think this thing runs through June 8th or 9th. So we might be kind of butting up against the championship series there. If, should Oregon State advance to the Women's College World Series Championship, our next podcast will be right there around that time. So, enjoy this thing while it lasts, Oregon State softball fans, because this is pretty cool. You're witnessing history right now. And hopefully, all I can say is hopefully baseball does the same. Be pretty cool to get both teams in the College World Series.
It would be unreal.
All right. Well, we want to thank everyone who joined us live on YouTube. We want to thank everyone who's been listening to us. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, you name it. We'll be back again next week, probably Wednesday or Thursday, hopefully, as we said, previewing more baseball, talking some softball. But until then, you can follow me on Twitter at Carter Bahns. She is at Angie Machado 1, and be sure to stick with BeaverBlitz all weekend and into next week as postseason on the diamond gets into full swing here. We'll be back next week.
Duke needs his own Twitter.
Let's get Duke Machado a Twitter. He's waving goodbye for anybody who's not watching on YouTube. Duke, Angie's dog is waving goodbye to you.
Yeah, he's been climbing on me.
Yeah.
I think he wants dinner.
That's a wrap. We'll talk to everyone next week. Thanks for joining us. And hopefully, like I said, we're previewing more baseball next week.